taawo ekitajja mu nkola bwe bakuba nti emyaka omusanvu bagitwalira tujja kusigala ku myaka 5 kyavaawo
akagambo kebadde njagala
kooti yakola ogwayo nimwe ne yakola ogugwe ogw'okonsolinga abantu
akagambo akaddako
kooti ruling yasigala
akagambo akaddako owakawulira keyazzaako they are not in charge I am
and he of course he is in charge he's the
kakati DP egende gamba omusajja gino walinga abalamuzi n'agamba nti they are not the ones in charge olwo DP egambe ki DP ekigitwalayo mu iPod mwogo mukago gw'ebibiina nafu nkugambye oluganda lukozesa ekigambo kibanga ekivuma nti naye nze nekiwoomya nti mwabaavu DP njavu omwavu tayinza gamba nti eyo ennyama sijja kugirya njagala ya mbirizi tekisobola FDC erina kapasite ekyogera nti sijja kulya ennyama ya bbango njagala ku mbirizi
okay nga tujja mu iPod nsonga ki dowandyenze babenga bakoonako iwenga basajja mivule
tewali nsonga yonna nze basajja mivule gye nyinza kuteesa na mwami Museveni kubanga tewali kyasobola kuwuliriza anti
basajja mivule
ntya to waste my time
tosobola kukuba nti often that opportunity okutyama ku meza ni fountain of honor listen be clearly often a chance okutyama ni president w'eggwanga tosobola kuba kukyosooka
anti abaani alina omulamwa gwampitiddeko mwami Museveni bwampita ku nsonga z'eggwanga other issues other than entebe ye how we can discuss mwami Museveni bwakuyita nga mugenda kuteesa ku ntebe ye okujjako ng'oyagala akuwa essente awo genda tomalanga biseera nga mugenda kuteesa ku duration period gy'anaamalanga akyafuga mumugambe nomugamba twagala otubuulire ovaako ddi awo oba ogenze kunywa kacaayi n'okufunayo ku bbaasa naye ku nsonga ez'amalwaliro ku nsonga ez'enkulaakulana ku nsonga ez'ebyobulimi nga nadisi wealth creation nina byensobola okumugamba mwami Museveni in fact I love to meet him on such issues naye ku ntebe ye
dino n'ensonga detwayenza FDC bajje bakubere president nti president okali ku ntebe ayi amadwaliro
si kye baliko bano agenda yaabwe enkulu mwami Museveni ave ku ntebe addeko ebbali abali nabo bakwatemu ekyo simala biseera kukimugamba
mwami Museveni gumwenda okusindikiza akalina mandate y'abantu abamulonda paka 2020
kubanga nze enkola yange plan B nze mwami Museveni siri mu nkola ya kumujjako na kalulu kubanga takasobola mujjako nze nina plan B
because akalina obwagizi mu bantu
sirowooza naye nze ndi wa plan B.
Okay. Muna ifali ku Baba TV tujja kuba tukutusa ku emikolo oba olukiiko luno olabana ife aba iPod nga boli kuba ngobo n'ebijja mu maiso as we finish up this program tukutegeeza tisigala ku Baba TV ojja maiso n'okuba ngoyongera okubona enteekateeka ya iPod nga boli kujja mu maiso President 7 amaze okuba nga tukale munyonyo obajja okuba nga batyama basajja mivule ba iPod etandise
akkiriza okubeerayo
president yes amaze okubanga atuka mu kifo munyonyo that is very important
baani abaliyo
president okubanga aba DP baliyo UPC eriyo Jema eriyo ni stakeholders so tusubire mu kye kijja okuvaamu FDC ezirayo
kakati njagala kuyamba bana Uganda nti bwe kibanga n'abatuwa obuyambi this is very very big and important n'amawanga agatuwa obuyambi mwami Museveni does not respect them aba blushing
because
UN owulidde UN gwe mukago gw'amawanga agamanene omukago gw'amawanga g'ensi yonna omuli amawanga amanene agatuwa n'obuyambi wawulira bwe baali balayiza Kenyatta bwe yabavuma.
No, of course, omuntu okuba ngomu obuyambi kitegeeza kuyingira mu affairs time.
Kakati emirundi emeka ng'agamba nti they have issues with their heads. Ochegera they are themselves they are emirundi nga abayisaamu amaaso olwawulirize banno bati maamu abakuyamba okulabika obulungi abakuyamba okulya n'obeerawo ng'oli mulamu bw'obaddako n'obavuma otegera olwo atalina kyakuyambira ddala gw'osinga ne mu kalulu naye bannange mmwe waliwo yabaloga mwami Museveni bano baasinga ne mu kalulu bagenda mugamba ki
so mbufunze aba iPod badiscussinga ku bintu ebindi but
olina ekigambo ky'obadde oleeta senga kye baali bateesaako nga kye baagala omugamba I would have joined them nandibegaseeko
nti ojali
twagala okutaasa obulamu bw'abannayuganda your excellency mwami Museveni nga bw'otaasa obulamu bw'abaminisita bo bajjanjabirwa bweru bafuna sente mpitirivu twagala e Masaka twagala ejjinja twagala Soroti atutuli hospital iganga hospital wabeereyo kino abantu bano sente zino za chemotherapy za cancer mitwalo 3 owekitiibwa gajjeewo ebyo nandi begaseeko twagala ebintu ebikolebwa ebitalina butale abantu bafune balima kasuuli n'adibira mu masitowa owekitiibwa president twagala abantu bave mu bwavu ewaffe ebusonga tuli bubi awo nandibegaseeko naye nti twagala kuteesa ku ntebe eya mwami Museveni
so mu bufunze FDC
sisobola genda
eri ne mbana Uganda olukwe
FDC erabye musana okigera FDC erabye musana nzikiriza mali n'okwebaza owekitiibwa Bobi Wine Kyagulanyi akatambala kwompereza katuuse Bobi Wine ampereza akatambala nti mpiseeko mu kyenyi sebo owekitiibwa Bobi Wine webale akatambala aka people power kwompereza gwosindisa akatuusiza DJ Devi bangande Devi DJ Devi akalese nti nsimuleko mu Kiwalaata owekitiibwa Bobi Wine neyanzeege okunzisamu ekitiibwa n'okunjagala sebo bwe ndikwata ekintu ngenda kukulabira ddala ate naawe bw'oliba okikutte ondabiranga ddala Bobi Wine akatambala katuuse sebo era Ekiwalaata nkiyisizza
Bobi Wine tusobola kwesembereza musaada gwebeta mivule mu gavumenti ya
ate kati akatambala Bobi Wine ali magere nasindika omuntu namugamba nti linnya boda otwalire basajja mivule akatambala kano akayise mu Kiwalaata
nogamba nti radio court ndiibwe ngoli kwenda okuzimba democracy ezaswa kukwesembereza nga likwenda kuzimba democracy awo omuntu omukisa okwewozaako ayiwaenda okugema abantu bakuba amasasi 18 na kintu because owulire ku nti bayibye esente
nedda si kye nagambye nti bwe gubanga gukusse mu vvi owulira wateekwa okubeerawo abattibwa abalala bakole ki balabire okwo simalaga kuba bukubi ate n'ekirala nze sirinda muntu awali omukka nga gunyooka ne tulinda ate obeere mu ofiisi okyankalanye obujulizi nga tukugjawo nga odda ebbali n'enamba 3 ne tugamba buli obugagga bonna abakozi ba gavumenti bwe bafunye wateekwa okuba ekitiisa abantu okuddamu okubba ebintu bya gavumenti kulabalira ku bannaabwe ng'ebyabwe wadde tebanazza misango babanoonyerezaako ne bababuuza baabijjawa
atumaliriza okobye President Museveni akalulu tekasobola kumutoola mu bukulembeze
sinze bigambo bye ye yayogera
but according to you tekasobola kumutoola mu ntebe okobye nti okutya amani Museveni okuteesa naye tichimutoola mu ntebe now how best can we have a peaceful transition of power from President Museveni to another president?
Wetagisawo plan B.
What is that plan?
Njisomesa mu Basajja Mivule University. Abantu bajje mu Basajja Mivule University mbabulire Museveni yetaaga plan B. Nesi bupapulo. Kigambo kye kyava mu kamwake. Nti akapapulo upapula. Naye na mukitwala lightly. The guy is serious. Museveni means what he says. But the people who take Museveni a joker, they need doctors, psychiatric doctors
to analyze their brains.
When he had no guns, he had no money, he had no army, he had no police. Nagamba obote nti ngenda mu nsiko omusajja n'akituukiriza. Kati alina ssente, alina emmundu, alina amagye, alina poliisi akugambye am going nowhere ng'ogenda mu iPod mututeese naye. Plan B njagala mujje mu Basajja Mivule University nja kubasomesa Plan B esobola okujja mu Museveni.
Alright, kale tweyanziza program Basajja Mivule live ekyo bwegire obeera okuba ng'oli ku Baba TV obwatabazinga tuli kujja munyonyo mu iPod. President Museveni yamazira okuba nga atuuka, aba DP batuseira, aba FDC bazirayo, aba UPC babere munenkayana tujja finally bankumi tubona baliyo. So tujja kuba twegereza ebiri kujja maiso mu iPod twida kwira mukayiyo kuba nga twagalana kona kwa Sunday mu The Light ze Hassan Muwanga ube bulungi.
Your Excellency, and at the same time the Chairman of the NRM, the Party President and the Chairman of the Summit, the President of UPC, and the only President General, the able President, Honorable Norbert Mao. Today is a very historical day, and I want to speak in the vein of an administrator of the party and the challenges that we go through, that our leaders must stand to help address, nurture our young multi-party growth. We are confronted with a challenge, and like Frank said, democracy starts with you. And we also want to believe that if you want to make your enemy a friend, if you want to work with your enemy, or you want to work with your opponent, make your opponent a friend, and he will become your partner. Mr. President and our party leaders, we are confronted with a challenge. We are driving a vehicle painted multipartyism, but we keep engaging the gears of a single party. We cannot drive our young multi-party growth if we keep driving a vehicle painted DP, UPC, NRM, FDC, and JEMA, and yet we engage the gears that are painted a single color. This occasion helps us, Mr. President, and our dear leaders to address the challenge of making our multipartyism grow. Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, in your capacity as a chair, I believe that it's within your armpits and the Secretary General of the NRM to hold accountable all institutions so that they also help grow multipartyism and they help lead the process of championing the growth. We stand here confronted with the absence of one of our colleagues. I have seen the letter that our colleague has written, and the letter is all crying about the police brutality and blocking of opposition parties. This does not only affect we as opposition, but we also want the NRM as a party. We want to grow together. We don't want to reach a situation like it is in Kenya, where KANU is struggling to even have one senator. We pray that you will use this opportunity at the summit outcome to draw and make sure that we nurture our multipartyism, that tomorrow, even when you're not in power, the rules and the good games that you've established within the laws will help your party to exist. We are confronted with the problem of freelancers. Even if you're a good player, Mr. President and our leaders, I am a supporter of the Arsenal. When we bought a good player in Aubameyang and Torreira, they had to change and wear the Arsenal shirt. We have good players today who think they can play as freelancers, who think they can play without a club. We are in a multipartyism that Ugandans decided to go to. We pray that in this summit, we are going to come up with rules and regulation to govern and help our multipartyism grow. If you look at how Parliament is run today, Mr. President and our dear leaders, you find that there is the leader of government business who speaks. There is the leader of opposition who speaks. Then there is a dean of independence. If you go to the House as an independent, then you form a coalition. You become a party. You cease to be an independent. We must address the question of independence because they are good players. But we ask that they play under the rules and regulations. We ask that it's not good in a country to drive a car numberless. Why do you drive a numberless? When we are in a level where we decided that we must champion, we must grow multipartyism. There are many cars. There is a car of DP, I still have space in that car. If those that are driving numberless have no number plates, we can give a number plate of DP, we can give a number plate of FDC, we can give a number plate of JEMA, we can give a number plate of UPC, we can as well give a number plate of NRM. But we are calling you, dear leaders, today to use this summit to help us as head of secretariats. The indiscipline is too much. A person runs in a party primaries up to tomorrow and the following day he's running as an independent. He keeps waving the colors of the party. He keeps waving the colors of green. He's running, for instance, with Honorable Babidi. And he's running, waving the colors of green. It is confusing the voters. In Kenya, for you to run as an independent, you must submit the application 1 year in advance. You must submit your colors, you must submit the symbols 1 year in advance. In Uganda, you can run as DP in primaries and the following morning you're seen with an independent or freelancer. We are confronted with the situation of radicals, and we believe that the summit will address the question of radicalism. Mr. President and Chairman of our parties, we believe that it's the role of a country to nurture and grow multipartyism. The question of party funding is a question that I want to address. We appreciate that through the IPOD and the parties in Parliament, we managed to get funding for political parties. But when you look at the method of sharing, 80% goes to two parties. You have NRM, you have FDC, and you have now DP and UPC sharing the other small part. All of us wake up in the morning and go to party headquarters. We all have administrative costs. We are asking that we can have a slot, maybe a method where we all have seed money, and then maybe say, let's say 2 billion each party, and then the other remaining balance can go to numeric strength. That way, we will be helping to grow the multi-party growth. Finally, Mr. President, to me, I was confronted with the challenge of the Yala question. In Kenya, all parties in the House at least have a representative at Yala. Tanzania is the same. Burundi is the same. In Uganda, you have an independent having a slot at Yala, and the party that is registered does not have a slot. We believe that we can use the summit to agree that to grow multipartyism, it should be reflected in all our arenas of our political game. Finally, from me, I know that my leader is going to say a lot of this statement, but I am talking this as an administrator, because if my party was in power, I would be the prime minister, so I am speaking administratively. Because I come from the party that is the mother of democracy, the party that is the mother of multipartyism. And we believe that all together have a role. My sister Kasule Lumumba and my brother Todong, myself, my brother, the chairman, and my brother Katereg and the team all have a big role to play in making sure that we walk multipartyism, in making sure that we're all disciplined. And I call upon you, Mr. President. The language is very key to grow our multipartyism. Mr. President, I remember in your statement when you've just taken oath as the chairman, as the president of Uganda, but we should also remember that you're the chairman of the NRM. The language is very key to our multi-party growth. For instance, when you stated that you're going to wipe out multi-partyism, that by 2020 there will be no multi-partyism, that spirit does not help grow multi-party growth. I believe that your presence to this summit is going to help us address questions that pass within. And as leaders, as we speak, these are very key. When you say something, my son Daniel was asking, Daddy, you are DP, but the president has said he's going to wipe you away. I was confronted with a situation like that. I want to ask our party leaders, PP Asman, PP Jimmy Akena, the President General of DP, and yourself, and Amuriat Nabuzensha, that we should care about the language. Whatever we speak should be helping us to grow multipartyism so that we are not confronted with the challenge of undoing what Ugandans decided that we should go the road to multiparty growth. I want to appreciate you. In my delegation, I have the members of parliament, I have the National Executive Committee members, I have elders within the party, I have members of the National Council, I have the youth. I have seen my two whips, Honorable Seungu and Honorable Komakech Riando around, the whip and the deputy whip. And we know that in the current iPod, we decided to have the party whips because so that whatever we decide in council, they can help us to implement it in the House. And the chairman of Busia is around, Honorable Deo Njoki, the people's chairman. Thank you so much, my brother, for allowing me space to say these words. I believe that this is an historical summit, and finally, we require commitment. We are not here for a photo opportunity. We are not here to take mineral water. We are here so that we can justify to the country and let Ugandans allow us to lead. Give us an opportunity to lead. And we believe that if we work together, our multipartyism can become a reality for truth and justice.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you see in the program, they were not supposed to speak. I just gave them 5 minutes. They decided to arrogate them more minutes. So I'm now reducing it to 3 minutes. You will permit me, with humility, as your chairman, that the next speaker, the German Secretary General, Honorable Katerega, you have 3 minutes.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellencies, the party presidents, ladies and gentlemen, I salute you in the name of God. Before I say anything, just allow me, Your Excellency, to introduce you some of the delegates from Justice Forum. I'll begin with the founder president, Mr. Chivige Mayanja. I hope Your Excellency you remember him in 1996. I believe he gave you a very hard time at that time. Reverend Santos, the Vice Chairperson of Justice Forum, is coming all the way from Gulu. Mr. Alex Ojok, the Vice President of Justice Forum. Mr. Freddy Kasaja, the Deputy Secretary General. Mr. Balinda Siraj, representing Justice Forum in NIPOD. Madame Nakalita, founder member. Mr. Apollo Kasuli, Secretary for Mobilization, Justice Forum. The rest of my interest is Mr. Kisoma from Iganga. He's one of the senior members from Justice Forum. Mr. President, this is an opportunity which must take as Ugandans. This summit is long overdue. You remember that in the last Kisanja we were supposed to meet but situations or circumstances could not allow us to meet. Now, there are so many people outside this room who are waiting to see what is going to be the outcome of this meeting. Requesting all players in this to implement whatever resolution should come out of this dialogue. Second, I also want to inform the general public that dialogue is a process. Some people think that we are going to leave this room with all what you want. I should also bring it to your attention, Mr. President, that our colleagues from FDC, they are not here because they have some reservations. They believe that NRM should change its ways of managing this country. Recently, they were in Rukungiri, and they were bad to organize their rally. The DP, they are very bitter about what happened in Busia, and they all believe that it was done by the ruling party. So at the formation of this IPOD, we had one core objective: to put Uganda first. To put Uganda first. We must go back to that and put Uganda first, so that everybody can get a share out of what is in this country called Uganda. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, IPOD brings together parties in the Parliament of Uganda. We should also be very keen to differentiate between IPOD and the National Resistance Movement as a party, because the difference between government and the National Resistance Movement, because some of these things like political restrictions, assembly, is done by the government, not the party. So when we are here as political parties. We should keep that in mind and be free to express our feelings, so that when our colleagues in the NRM go back, should take time to reflect and change what people think that has gone in the wrong direction. With those few words, I once again welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, and I thank our principals for accepting to sit together, and I believe Ugandans are waiting to see a different Uganda beginning from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Jema. Allow me with great humility to invite the Right Honorable Justine Kasule Lumumba, because she's the only female Secretary General. I'll allow her to speak the way she wants. She's a woman. We should respect women. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Honorable Ebil Fred, our leader. Your Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda and the National Chairman of the ruling party, the National Resistance Movement, Honorable James Akena, the President of UPC, but the summit chair. For the first time, IPOD has held the summit since Uganda went multi-party in July 2005. Honorable Norbert Mao, the President General of DP, Honorable Asumani Basalirwa, the President of Justice Forum, Honorable Engineer Amriat Oboy Patrick, the President of FDC in absentia, Secretary Generals of the IPOD parties, Right Honorable Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, the Prime Minister of Uganda and Leader of Government Business in Parliament, the Government Chief Whip, Honorable Ruth Nankabirwa, and the executive of the caucus of NRM in Parliament, members of SEC, parties, leaders of parties gathered here, I greet you all in the name of Uganda. Your Excellency, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for having created time and given IPOD this whole day. We appreciate as IPOD. When you appointed me Secretary General, I went to IPOD meeting, and the welcome remark, and that had been relegated by the Prime Minister, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda. Honorable Nandala Mafabi said, before you enter, we have never met the national chairman of NRM. And you are the people who are failing this summit to go on. I said, let's have the official opening, we shall have a discussion. And once we agree, we shall move together. And we are moving together, but it is FDC that has not come. Yet those are the remarks he gave to me, and I promised and pledged, and I've done my part. Other parties have done their part. Him who raised it has not done it. Here we are as Ugandans. Your Excellency, allow me to invite my deputy to also bring our yellow song like the rest have done.
NRM oye. Remix, we have quite a number of songs. But for the summit to keep it cool and nice and calm, we're going to sing a very small song. And I have another choir member here with me. Yellow, yellow, Abana wa yellow, 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 NRM yellow, DP yellow, UPC yellow, JMA yellow, FDC yellow, yellow, yellow. Asanteni.
Abazukulu ba yero. Chairperson of the IPOD Summit, allow me to introduce to you the delegation from NRM, led by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the National Chairman of NRM. We have members of the Central Executive Committee, that is the Apex Committee in the management of the NRM party, of the Mass Party. Please stand up for recognition. We have the members of the Secretariat of NRM. Please stand up for recognition. We have the Electoral Commission of NRM. We have youth leaders, stand up. Our team, the majority are the youth, because they are the majority in the party. We have leaders of women. Your Excellency, all the 36 registered political parties in this country, it's only NRM that has a Secretary General who is a woman. Leaders of the people with disabilities, please stand up for recognition. Leaders of veterans, leaders of the business community, you know, some of them came as leaders of Kampala at the same time as leaders of business community, so they may be forgetting, but that is also part of what is to bring a smile to us here. Your Excellency, the issues that have been raised by the Secretary General of DP and the Secretary General of JEMA, these are part of the issues that we are supposed to discuss in the side meeting with the leaders of the parties. Because as you are aware, when Ugandans went multi-party in July 2005, certain things had to change. Some issues, some things have changed. There has been change in the legal regime, but there is more still to be done in this issue, on this issue. But also, Your Excellency, and the leaders of political parties, we also have to understand that whatever we do as political parties, we must do everything within the legal regime. But we also have a responsibility as political parties and the Electoral Commission to make sure we make Ugandans appreciate multi-party, because we were in the movement system for quite some time. So it's the responsibility of all of us to make sure we make everybody understand multi-party. So the issue of pointing fingers at all of us, Your Excellency, I want you to appreciate that whenever we go for the IPOD meetings, all of these other four parties keep pointing fingers to me and my deputy. But here we are happy that we are with you, the national chairman. They will point fingers to us in the presence of our boss in the party. We pray, Right Honorable Prime Minister, we keep improving the legal regime to give space to political parties. But also at the same way, we need a program from government that will help political parties to develop internal mechanisms of democracy within the parties themselves. Because here we are talking about the issue of independence in Parliament, but independence came up because of our weaknesses within our political parties. So it's the responsibility of all of parties to make sure we improve in our internal mechanisms. It cannot be done in one day, it will be a process. Your Excellency, the absence of FDC, we should always adopt, like for us in NRM, we behave like football teams. You don't leave the field until you have scored. So when you leave the field, you don't score. So I call on my colleagues in FDC, whatever may not be going on well, don't leave the field. This was the opportunity for you to come and raise it to the person, the commander-in-chief, to tell whoever is doing what is not good, that is deterring you from your space, so that it brings order where it is required. But leaving the field and leaving it to JEMA, NRM, DP to be the ones to talk for you, yet you who has felt it more would have explained it better than us. We also have issues. The order of precedence. The order of precedence, the protocol in the government has remained the same despite the fact that we went multi-party. The protocol in the government does not recognize multi-parties. It is still under the movement system. We need to improve this. Whenever you create a vacuum, NRM, Your Excellency, thank you for demonstrating that. NRM, clap for him. Whenever you create a vacuum, whenever you create a gap, it has to be filled. So he has filled it. So you can as well, Your Excellency, represent FDC. Since you are the head of state, you can even represent them since they've created a vacuum. Chair of the summit, The issue they've raised about Busia, and they've accused the NRM. I want people to be sincere. It is so painful to be the ruling party, the mass party, and your candidate is disqualified. In Busia, the candidate of NRM was disqualified. The candidate of DP was disqualified. But for you to say NRM disqualified its candidate, that's not fair to us. And that's not the spirit that we are here. So I would really request whoever is harboring that, we had bigger pain. We had bigger pain than DP. Yes, because our candidate was disqualified. And that is democracy. So I want to call on whoever thinks it was done by NRM should remember that our candidate too was disqualified. It affected both of us, DP and NRM. But that is a sign that we should, as party leaders, educate our people. The changes in the law. The law in change of name changed. We should go out and educate our people. As part of the civic education, we are going to give parties, we are going to give people who are going to contest in the next round of 2021. We should not leave it only to the Electoral Commission. It is our responsibility. Your Excellency, when IPOD was under the leadership of FDC, we had several meetings. Next was NRM, and when IPOD was under the leadership of NRM, the Memorandum of Understanding was signed by all leaders of political parties under IPOD. And when it is under the leadership of UPC, we've had the first summit. So next is DP. So when we are under the leadership of DP, Your Excellency, we would want to know the date in advance when the next summit would be, so that DP can prepare and not to get us as the excuse. Your Excellency, leaders from parties who are gathered here, we remain committed as NRM to IPOD. We signed and we will stand by those signatures. We will be the last people to leave IPOD. That is serious commitment on behalf of NRM. We stand for nationalism and Pan-Africanism. We stand for socio-economic transformation and democracy. NRM oye. NRM oye. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Secretary General of NRM. Before I go to the last item in this session, to invite the President of UPC, allow me, Your Excellency, the President of Uganda and party leaders, to introduce the party leaders or the delegation of UPC. Can I start with the cabinet members? The cabinet members of UPC stand up for recognition by the delegates. Cabinet members of UPC. There you have members of parliament like Honorable Akora, who is the party treasurer, and others there. And then we have regional vice chairpersons. Can you stand up for recognition? Thank you very much. Then we have the district chairpersons who are around. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That one with the loud voice is called a Wala Lao. He was trained by the then Minister of Local Government, Kalule Setala. That's why he has a loud voice. Thank you very much. Sit down. Now, with great pleasure, allow me to introduce to you the first former first son to become a president of a political party. The man who was born in State House. And the president of UPC, Honorable Jimmy James Michael Akena. Come and welcome your people, the delegates, so that we go for the side meeting of the summit. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda and Chairman of the National Resistance Movement, President General of the Democratic Party, President Amuriat in absentia, President Asman Basalirwa of Justice Forum, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Government Chief Whip, Party Whips, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am very humbled that we're able to have this gathering here today. I had been on record that even if we were to have a summit to have a cup of tea, I was prepared to go for that cup of tea. And this is in recognition that the conversation which has started here today is vital. So even if we do not have a substantive agenda, we needed to start the conversation across party lines. And it is a great day to see colleagues singing Egumire, others singing Yellow. I did not quite hear the song for Jema, but in the UPC we have several. In case Jema needs some help in developing some songs, as Congress, we have always had songs, and every gathering, there's a song for that occasion. As chair of this summit, I think our task is really to facilitate. And therefore, I thank my Secretary General for allowing colleagues to set the tone of what needs to be discussed. I must also report that we had conversations with the Forum for Democratic Change President, and essentially their concerns centers around the right of association. They have made it clear that they feel that their fundamental right to associate is being hindered. And on that basis, they have opted not to be part of this meeting, but have decided or have made it clear they are not opting out of IPOD. They have stated that they're going to remain engaged in the processes of IPOD, and we will have to brief them on the outcomes of this summit here today. I also wish to thank the Council for giving us a very substantive agenda which tackles on the crux of the matters. And this could only come about on the cross-party basis and discussing freely and openly. I hope that we'll continue in that spirit in order to find a way whereby we can go into elections and come out satisfied that the election was free and fair. That whether you win or you lose, you walk away knowing that this contest was free and fair. It is a challenge we have had as a nation, and it is important that we address it as best as we can. We are not too far away from the next general elections, and a lot of work needs to be done. And on this note, I wish to thank the National Resistance Movement for showing the commitment and bringing such a delegation to such a meeting, and most of all, for having the chair of the National Resistance Movement, who's also the President of the Republic, to attend the summit. Whatever our differences, at the bottom, we are all Ugandans. And it should be our dream to see that Uganda succeeds. We would love to see UPC on top of that success, but if UPC is not there, Uganda must still succeed. And while we strive to improve within our parties to ensure that we get the best possible solution, Uganda must succeed. So our approach in this dialogue is for Uganda to win. We may have to give up some ground, we may have to compromise here and there, but at the end of the day, Uganda must come out victorious. Honorable colleagues, it is a historical moment as far as I'm concerned. And such moments are not a daily occurrence. I wish that we can hold on to this and ensure that future generations will know that as members of the political parties in Uganda, coming together in 2018, we laid a foundation for the future of democracy in this country. I support wholeheartedly the message from IPOD that democracy begins with dialogue. We must be prepared to talk. I am glad that amongst the party leaders here, my elder brother, Chairman Mao, is there, in that we went through difficult procedures in order to secure peace in northern Uganda. We were misunderstood by many, often considered to be working for the other side, but the basis which we went into those talks was we needed peace. If it meant sitting down with those who you not normally sit down with, we needed that peace. In the case now, as Uganda, we need to have a democracy we can all be proud of. We have made strides, but there's more work to be done. So on those brief comments, I would like to invite the colleagues to the side meeting. Within the program, all the party leaders will have an opportunity to address this esteemed delegation on the matters which we hope to discuss or conclude within the summit. Thank you very much and most welcome. I am honored that this day has come to pass. Thank you.
Yes. As
Baba TV, obusuga bulayire.
Hello and welcome to the Booting Test of Uganda Challenge. Let's meet our contestants. No matter where they have come from, they've all chosen Fortune Buto and Nunu Curry Powder. Finally, I present to you the Test of Uganda. Test unites Uganda. Fortune Buto, the Test of Uganda.
Bampita Florence Naseje.
Kefeza Vasta.
Sente ezo njazongera mu business yange.
Esente enzo ndi mulwadde.
My name is Susan Tusabe. I am a literacy advocate.
Nze Kasule Muhammad. Funye obukadde 5.
3 million is going to help us to finish the water tank for the literacy center.
Ngenda kwongera mu business yange.
Zanya Super 3 owangule era nga ne sente z'obetinze zikubisibwamu emirundi 2 era weefunire n'akasiimo
ak'okuyingira Super Jackpot eya miliyoni 7
ku Sunday eno.
Okuzanya ng'okozesa MTN nyiga star *165 star 33 hash ogoberera endagiriro ku simu yo. Ate gwe kasitoma wa Airtel nyiga star *185 star 4 star 9 hash oteekemu business number 333 teekamu omuwendo gw'oyagala okuzanya okuva ku 10 okutuuka ku mitwalo 5 olwo olonde namba zo zinamukisa 3 okuva ku nooti okutuuka ku 9 ozeeko BATV nga payment reference yo era ofune super feeling olwaleero.
Glory Nasale and Primary School. Somero lya Dene Boarding atenga lya bawala na balenzi. Somero gazi omwana wasobola okuzannyira. Lina library ejjudde ebitabo. Litambulira ku musingi gwa ddiini. Ebisale bijja mu nsawo y'omuzadde. Balina emmotoka ezitambuza omwana okumujja waka okumutuusa ku ssomero. Balina n'enkola ya basale. Essomero erikulembera mu by'ekyomusanvu mwaka ku mwaka. Lirina center number lisangibwa mu disitulikiti eya Jinja e Masese. Okumanya ebisinga okuba ku 0704 788 37 8 oba kubira baasa 0703 57 44 19. Glory Nasaland Primary School.
Build them a house that years can't touch. Build them a home that makes them feel safe and loved. Build them a house that lives up to your dreams. When you build a home, build it with multi-purpose cement from Hema. That is reliable and trusted to build durable structures. Because homes are built to last forever.
Bandeta Namwase Ziada nga ndi mutayami wa Iganga Municipality Uganda chenenda eyencho ebe ndikwenda democracy atukirire awazira kutulugunya muntu tuyikirize nti nga nze akalulu bwe kansinga ne bansinga I stepped down. Nenda Uganda eyenkulankulana eri mu demokrasia nga ensi ed'amawanga edindi. Barack Obama yali kukisa yayingira ku bwa president for 10 years yalekulira within that short period of time whereby tiyali olutalo yava ku bulungi era America is still going on. We should copy from other countries.
Amawulire nenjine okukabana byobufuzi babitamu okutuusa pokopoko ku bantu.
Tetuli beetegefu kudda amabega paka nga eggwanga lyaffe lituuse lutwagala libeere.
Aye kiri eri ffe ng'abamawulire okulemera ku nsonga wano mu programu Webuzibiire twasala okulemera ku nsonga.
Surely I think the devil has come in this house and we need to repent.
Abalala bayinza okusala ku bannaabwe ebigambo okwagala okufunamu ekintu.
Twegayiteeko okuvula ebbalaza okutuusa olwokuna mu programu Webuzibiire okuva essanda n'ekitundu paka 2 obwire. Ninze Hassan Muwanga.
Otasubwa ku Baba TV.
Kanakoze wa mukwano lafu njagala nkuwaye kanakoze nze netata kamugambe lero njagala nkusuute
omuntu bw'asimba mwana mwine kiba kibinuko ng'amulaga ensi yona yona wandabira mu kateeteeyi kenalinena titukoma kulaga mukolo gwonka wazira tukutuusaako enteekateeka y'omukolo gwonna n'ebindi ebigwa mu bufumbo ng'okubuulirirwa
oba kudeetinga balina okudeetingira mu bifo ebiri openi.
buli lwa Sunday ninza omuweerezaawo Kan Shamira mu puroguramu Gwensiimi.
Otasubwa ku Baba TV.
Ebikonge bya Busoga oibi ebivuire wowulira abakungu n'abanene Busoga ne Uganda otwalizagalala oli nikyo yega mu bulamu bwaibwe
nga nzaana katemba nga ndi mu bandi nga tukumba nga nfuwa ka fruit
ye ku museetwe benuka batya ate ku Kaserengeto begendereza batya
bwe tubanga nga tulonda abaami betujja okuwa obwami n'abaana abatumwena mukulire mu maka mutakulira mu luya
awoniini oyege era obone ku buniino beefuba ku batya
napakinga headmaster yadana akagaali yatagale
koba ote niye bali buti wenoobenga oyegamu bona programu guno waife ku Baba TV buli lwa Sunday ninza omwanduzi waayo Kifubanga bu Michael.
Otasubwa ku Baba TV.
Abantu bangi tibayidi obuwangwa niki era abasinga tibayidi ng'obuwangwa kyabugayiga. Mu programu yaife eno mano obukombe bwo tujja kulingirira ebyobuwangwa ebitali bya nsambo ndala fumbiza n'okufumbirwa
yatana embuzi 3 bamusanadde bayamafuta
iranga kunkuze y'abaana mu maka gaife
omukozi tafaayo kumukusomesa kulamusa
eddagala lyaife lino ery'ekinansi
aguna kujja kufumbagama ngata mukipa kukoba ati ndi herbalist kuba bire byamulema
tulingirire kubika
yakola ensobi ng'alina obuyinza okumulambaza awo bamukubira mu kikaawo mu lujjudde
tulingirire ne kuwacha abazinga boona bino byona tudabibonanga mu programu yaife eno mano obukombe bwo wano ku Baba TV obusoga bulayire buli lwa Sunday ninza omusomesa mukwaya Stephen Tenwa.
Baba TV. obusoga bulayire.
And in one instance, the manhole burst. But what happened is the two neighbors had quarreled. So the neighbors were unwilling to talk to each other in order to resolve the burst manhole. So what happened is their children started playing in the sewage water. And they still wouldn't want to talk to each other because they had had a quarrel about whatever it is they'd quarreled. And their children fell ill. And instead of discussing how to deal with the sewage, they started discussing whose sewage was the cause of the illness of the children. My friends, Uganda cannot afford the luxury of looking at the collective plight of the nation and be preoccupied with determining or describing whose sewage or whose challenge it is. Your children will be in the mess that you do not solve as the political leadership. If you are so stuck in your fragile egos and unwilling to see the future, your children are going to suffer as a result of your inability to talk about things you can solve. I wanted to suggest to you that Uganda is in the moment it is in. You cannot continue to run your political parties in this country on the basis of memory alone. Because history and hysteria are important to know where we've come from, but they are not enough. We need to strengthen the capacity of the political parties and political party leadership to imagine. To see the future, we must imagine it. We cannot continue to be stuck in 1930 and 50 business when the rest of the world is going to space. The world does not owe Uganda a living. Ugandans owe themselves a future. And if the leadership that Uganda has is unwilling to co-create that future with the people, maybe a day will come when the people will say, you cannot lead us because you can only see the past and not the beauty that can be fashioned in the future. So I do concede as a foreigner that idealism increases with one's distance from a problem. Uganda has suffered from greed, and I'm quite sure whether you're in NRM, in DP, in UPC, or any other party, the problem of greed in this society is legendary. But Uganda has had grievances. Otherwise, you would not have had the removal of various leaders on the basis of grievance. Uganda has struggled with identity issues, whether it's the Uganda question, the Northern Uganda question, Karamoja question. These matters are a critical part of our conversation. But Uganda now faces a demographic challenge. The bulk of the people in political party leadership are above the age of 30. In fact, I am being kind in so saying. The average age of the leadership is 50 plus. But the mean age of Uganda is about 19 or 21. And that means over 65% of the population of this country is under the age of 25. And that means 95% of the leadership of political parties, and therefore the leadership of this country, is almost a decade older than the majority of the population. It is not just about age, because it is possible to have young people with very old ideas and old people with young ideas. I'm talking about how we deal with the reality of underrepresentation and we deal with the reality of irrelevance. But Uganda has also suffered from external influence. Last night, a friend of mine said to me as I arrived at this hotel, Aki Brian, who bewitched us and died without disclosing the formula to unbewitch us, that we can't get the formula as Africans. I retorted, perhaps it is not a witch, because stupidity, arrogance, and indifference are the greatest forms of witchcraft. Stupidity, arrogance, and indifference creates a political superstition that says to you nothing can be solved. It creates something external always as the center of solution. It is Chinua Achebe who said, people come to Africa to confirm what they already have in their heads, and so they fail to see what is there in front of them. I want to say to you as Ugandans, Politicians come to Ugandans to confirm their prejudices, and they fail to see what is in front of their eyes. Sekou Toure said, to take part in the African Revolution, it is not enough to write a revolutionary song, to chant a revolutionary slogan. You must fashion the revolution with the people, in the hearts of the people, and you must model the revolution by how you live. If there are any Ugandans who believe here that they are transformative or they are transformational, where is the example that you have set in the integrity of your leadership? Where is the example that you have set in the tolerance, in the inclusiveness? Where is the example that you have set in ensuring you don't abuse public resources or party resources? Where is the example that you have set in ensuring that you honor women and you include young people? Where is the example that you have set? If you have not set those examples, I was told in Nigeria years back that, Brian, if you are a lizard in your own home, you can't be a crocodile elsewhere. We have too many lizards here, sometimes in political parties. I want to suggest to you, honorable members of political parties, it is a Ugandan wise saying that says a man who's bitten by a snake fears a lizard. That means paranoia comes from our historical experience. You cannot go into this dialogue paranoid. You would have to deal with your external fears. You will have to deal with reality. In saying so, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, I'm mindful that Uganda bears the scars of history. I'm mindful that you have hurt each other deeply and sometimes intentionally. I'm mindful that you have also hurt each other without intention. Men have hurt women, women have hurt men, but it's always been men mostly. I'm mindful also that different regions of this country have hurt each other, excluded each other, sometimes with intention and sometimes without intention. So you cannot go into this dialogue without addressing the question of regionalization and ethnicization of your politics that has led to an impression that certain components are locked out of the premises of the state. We cannot go into this agenda without addressing the siege mentality or the question of the chaotic urbanization that has created a mass of young people in our urban areas who are hostile to the state, hostile to institutions, because institutions and the state have always excluded them. I want to suggest to you that the state as a site of accumulation, privilege and pillage is something that Uganda has experienced for a long time. This dialogue cannot be complete without dealing with the fundamental questions of state accountability, not only for corruption, but accountability for human rights and also accountability for development. I see judges and retired judges in this room. The challenge of politicized justice systems, which then becomes the institutionalization of injustice. The challenge of political party activists come entrepreneurs, come criminals who are part of the bleeding system of our countries. The grand corruption that every party in this room has taught us about. But we don't come to this only with scars. Uganda has not arrived at this point only with scars. Uganda was one of the first countries on this continent to champion the leadership of women and to include women in politics and in parliament. And I think we learned those lessons. When I first knew Honorable Mao, who's now leader of the Democratic Party, and the late Nobu Mayombo, they were very young when they were included, won in government and participated in parliament. So it may have looked normal to Ugandans, but for the rest of the continent, for 28-year-olds and 27-year-olds to be in leadership was unheard of. We were still struggling with youth who were 70 years old. So you can understand if we say to you, you are doing better than most. But we learned from the liberation of this country, first from colonialism and then the second liberation, that collective leadership and solutions, mass mobilization, consensus and solidarity are indispensable. NRM, collective leadership and solutions, mass mobilization, consensus, consent and solidarity. DP, collective leadership, consensus and solidarity. UPC, FDC, Justice Forum, We learned also that institutions, leadership, and knowledge matters to democratization. We have learned over the last 50 years that intergenerational thinking about governance and development, that in the real test is not what a generation is able to do now, but the question is whether you are Mao or Museveni, whether you are Honorable Asuman, I have to pronounce it properly, Asuman Basalirwa, or you are Patrick Oboy or James Sakena. Will what you do today, the ideas and the ideals, will your ideas, your ideals and legacy still inspire in the future? We know that freedom is not free. We know that freedom in this country was fought for. We know that it was defended and nurtured. We know that amongst those who are talking, some have fought against each other, and others have imprisoned each other, and others have called each other names. But we know that the only mental slavery is to believe that the definition of what we can do together and the definition of what we can do for Uganda is tied and limited to the insults that we have traded, and not the future, the common future that we deserve. Why am I passionate about this? We are here to have a big dialogue, not a small dialogue. We are here to address national questions. I know Uganda has big issues to deal with: constitutionalism, rule of law, and human rights. The state, its role in development, governance, and sustainable development generally. How to grow the tertiary sector. How to have democratic control of social, economic, and environmental policy. Mitigating fragility in the economy. Averting the debt crisis and combating illicit financial flows. Resisting voluntary recolonization by ensuring equitable forms of economic and political partnerships with the outside world. I know that these issues are big issues, but what is it that is important? I want political party leaders to remember that Ugandans are by and large impoverished by our inability or your inability to talk to each other. The description or accurate representation of poor people, disempowered people, struggling people, unemployed people is not a sign of revolution or development or even good leadership. The ability to gather young people in droves, the ability to get cheers at rallies, the ability to get young people to think you are better. You can be a superstar in your political party, but as long as young people live in misery, you can be a superstar in the newspaper, but as long as young people and women live in misery, your leadership remains a limited leadership. I wanted to say to you that there are certain things that are obvious as you come into this dialogue. The first one is that there are no perfect conditions for dialogue. There's nothing like a perfect dialogue. However, as you come into this dialogue, there ought to be certain minimum commitments and guarantees that you all need to give to each other. The first one is that your fragile egos and your tenacity for difference and fighting will not come into the way. The second one is that political parties, weakened by many years of personalization and pettiness, I call it the Premier League of pettiness, need to move to where they become institutions with the ability to represent, institutions with the ability to articulate, institutions with capacity for policy research, institutions with capacity to implement political programs. You come into this dialogue because dialogue is not capitulation, dialogue is not surrender, but dialogue is maturation or maturity of a political system. Some suggest that the political parties are too far apart. I want to suggest that why would you bother about getting close if you are not far apart? In Ugandan traditions, you say you can burn down a house, but you cannot hide the smoke. Not everything is well in present Uganda. The smoke shows that we burnt down relationships that we must mend on our own. You say that old men sit in the shade because they planted a tree many years before. I've come to say to you that the elders also used to say, today we meet to plant a tree under whose shade we may never sit. Today is not about how to share power only. Today is not about how to share benefits of multipartyism. Today is about how to co-create a future. The tree you are building today, the seed of the tree you are planting, some of you may never sit under. But if you plant, it shows you have courage. So I wanted to say to you, a good harvest does not grow with ease. The more diligent the farmer, the more bountiful the crop. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders of political parties, dialogue is vision made visible through courageous and conscious action by leadership. Dialogue is work. Dialogue is that constant willingness to live in a new day. Dialogue is the willingness to make peace with imperfection in order to serve the greater good. You need dialogue because something has gone wrong and needs fixing. Something is likely to go wrong, and if it is not fixed. Dialogue is not a chit-chat amongst bored politicians. It is about diversity, inclusion, and future focus. So if it is about that, what are the pillars of dialogue? Number one, it is purpose. I think that if dialogue has a limited purpose that only serves the political actors who are at the dialogue table, then it is not dialogue. It is simply political barter trade. Number two pillar is people, the citizens. Dialogue must critically and essentially be concerned with Ugandan citizens. But dialogue is about process. No dialogue succeeds without systems and structures. If dialogue is only anchored on personalities and their mutual tolerance, then the outcome is not development. The outcome is a marriage of convenience amongst political actors. Dialogue is therefore about performance as the fourth pillar, which is results and outcomes. But results and outcomes are not accidental. We must define them ahead of time. Will it be new constitutions? Will it be a new type of governmental structure? Will it be new ways of interacting? Will it be new policy? Will it be a new development paradigm? If none of the fundamentals change, then dialogue is purely a splendid waste of time, done in order to appease our bruised egos. It will be like two bulls who, after fighting so mercilessly, are too tired to fight. They lock horns, and those looking think they are kissing, but in essence, they are resting. When the exhaustion is done, the fight will continue. So let's be careful that dialogue is about power. If we don't determine the question of power in talking about dialogue, then we're wasting time. And it's not just political power. It's economic power. It's social power. It's inclusion power for young people, for women, for different regions of this country. So dialogue is about partnership. Is the partnership at the dialogue equal and equitable? Is it premised on trust? Dialogue is lastly about personal agency, self-leadership, and the force of example. The dialogue in Uganda cannot succeed unless the party presidents, the party secretary generals, and the party top echelons begin to paint to the rest of society that we are changing course. We are changing course. The course we have walked thus far has produced what it has produced. It's not sufficient to take us into the future. We are asking a simple question. Who moved my matoke? Because you don't eat a lot of cheese in Uganda, I would have said, who moved my cheese? Something has happened that I need to alert you politicians to. Bertrand Russell says, power is the ability to produce intended effects. Henry Timms and Jeremy Heymans in the book New Power tell us the following, that today we have the capacity to make films, friends, or money, to spread hope or spread our ideas, to build community or build up movements, to spread misinformation or propagate violence, all on a vastly greater scale and with greater potential and impact than we did a few years ago. Yes, this is because technology has changed. But the deeper truth is that we are changing. Our behaviors and expectations are changing. There is a new power amongst young people. Young people, and I want to be frank with you leaders of political parties, young people will not always come to your doorsteps or to your political parties. They will find ways with the click of a button to undo all the work you have built over many years. This new power is the ability to harness the new appetites and possibilities created by technology. The inability of political parties in Uganda to thrive in this new world threatens not only their power, but their existence and relevance. I want to suggest to you that political power up to this day in Uganda worked like the Ugandan shilling, like a currency. It is used by everybody, but in reality it is controlled by a few elderly men. Once gained, it is defended by any and all means necessary. The powerful have reserves of it to spend. This type of power is closed, inaccessible, and leader-driven. It downloads and captures. When it ends, it is pitiful. Ask me, I'm from Zimbabwe. I have seen the end of Mugabe. Ask me, I live in South Africa. I saw the end of Zuma. But new power is different. It operates like a current of the mighty lake. It is co-created by many. Many rivers feed into the lake. It is open, it is participatory, it is peer-driven, sometimes grievance and ignorance-driven too. It uploads and it distributes. Like water or electricity, it is the most forceful power when it surges. The goal of new power is not to hoard it, but to channel it. My friends, let's decide how power will be exercised when we dialogue. By 2024, in 5 Africans will be the average age of 20. 1.1 billion, the number of Africans will be working age in 2040. Only 32% of women participate in your labor force. 65% of Africa's population will be under the age of 35. And I want to suggest to you that given the new demographic reality, online barons, mafioso, and political novices now dominate what happens. The world and our countries are hyper-connected and sometimes chaotic. Online platforms like WhatsApp, like Twitter, influence our daily habits, our emotions, and our options. You can spread hate and fake news in a minute and make it popular. So the issue is that not that these things are threats. The issue is, why are political parties central to dialogue if power is elsewhere? Number one, change cannot be transacted in an ideological or ethical vacuum. Number two, political parties are the cornerstone of our liberal democracy. Their condition defines the well-being of the democratic system itself. If the political party system is defective and divisive, this in turn means that society and the democratic process in society is defective and divisive. And these parties are able to create candidates that do many things, but change will not come unless if we deal with the question of political will. And this political will refers to the political incentives, but political will also refers to the organizational structure and culture and leadership of our political parties. It refers to the internal democracy in our political parties. It refers to the literacy of political parties regarding international relations, the literacy of political parties regarding economic matters. In Africa, political parties are so schooled in political dialogue, in political conversation, and very few is invested in understanding the economy. And yet fixing the economy will enable young Ugandans to get jobs. Fixing the economy will enable us all to live better lives. I'll come to challenge you that the conversation cannot be complete talking only about how to have a free, fair, and credible election. The conversation cannot be complete without talking about how to have an inclusive, developmental economy. But you can't have an inclusive and developmental economy without inclusive, developmental, programmatic political parties, if the political parties are highly personalized, if the political parties are made up largely of people who are not concerned about policy, about governance, about the bigger society, then the problem we have is, as they told me in Kenya, the trees may change, but the monkeys remain the same. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not calling you monkeys. I just want you to understand that Africa is part of the globe. Uganda is part of Africa. And the globe faces this reality. China has a strategy for Africa for over 60 years. Iran has a strategy for Africa. The United Arab Emirates has a strategy for Africa. Europe has a strategy for Africa. America has a strategy for Africa. Turkey has a strategy for Africa. But Africa does not have a strategy for itself. Uganda needs to ask itself one simple question. What is our 50-year strategy as Uganda for Iran, as Uganda for UAE, as Uganda for China, as Uganda for... My friends, we can differ on many things, but let's remember, sovereignty is often seeded out of ignorance. My ancestors were colonized because the colonialists offered them chewing gum and said to them, chew this sweet. When it gets finished, we will stop digging for gold. Little did they know that the chewing gum does not end. And they chewed and chewed on, and the colonialists dug and dug on. We are in that moment where we are being offered stadiums and roads in exchange for future, for water, for land, for sovereignty. There's nothing wrong with a road. We need a road. It was much quicker for me to get from Entebbe to this place, much quicker than it would have been before. I celebrate that road. But no road should ever come at the cost of the future of unborn Ugandans. Right. It seems to me that the problem is not only a problem of ruling parties and opposition parties. It's a problem of the citizens. Citizens have decamped from their responsibility to hold all politicians to account. They now are looking for messianic leadership. Now there is no Messiah for Ugandans. There's no Messiah for young Ugandans. For you in the opposition, it may have been fashionable 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to use the acronym IMF, not to refer to International Monetary Fund, but it's Museveni's fault. But today the reason why you are not organized is not IMF. It is because you have refused as political parties to move with the time. So you need to say it's IMF, which means it's my fault. My friends, the blame game politics is easy to do. It takes no genius. The ruling party can call all of you stooges of imperialism. You can call the ruling party a group of thieves. You can call each other anything you please. After you have called each other names, I have a question for you. Will Uganda have developed greater? Will there be more jobs in Uganda because you have eloquently called each other names? When you have described each other like spectators at a football match, will that have moved you closer to a common heritage and a common country? Or will your children be playing in the sewage that you are creating because you refuse to talk to each other? Friends, I use those strong terms because I want you to know the following. That at the moment, your political parties are not sufficiently politically savvy. And we have a problem of an electorate that's not conscious. But we have political parties that are anti-intellectual. Anyone who says we need to do research, they say, no. We don't want that bookish stuff. When the Chinese and the Europeans and everybody comes to your shores, believe me, they have researched you, researched your language, researched your culture, researched your habits, researched your differences, and they will harvest you like crops that have fallen to the ground, because stupidity must always be harvested. Right? Number, the following thing, if you are not thinking parties, you can't be doing parties, because to do without thinking is not a blind act of faith. It is institutionalization of confusion. You have to be programmatic parties. You have to show that you have grown. We now have many choiceless parties and choiceless democracies. Back home where I come from, they say, no, the leader of the party cannot be contested. The top leadership cannot be contested. Why? It is because it's our culture, it's our approach. And I keep saying to them, the tragedy you have with your children, the millennials, you raise them in your homes. When you tell them to do something, they ask why. Those are the same people you are ruling. If you are failing to rule them at home, you tell them you can't go out, they ask why. How are you going to rule them outside your homes? If you are a lizard at home interacting with your millennial children, how are you going to be a crocodile in the state dealing with those children? Are you going to unleash the army on them? The police perhaps? Are you going to call them names? They will just tweet about you, take selfies, and between our country into the ground. So what kind of institutions, therefore, and ways of exercising power will work for dialogue and reform in Uganda? Right now in most political parties, I'm sorry to say, there's been a tendency for autocratic, narcissistic, self-serving, and sectarian type of leadership. And even in those parties where we are calling for technocratic leadership, it has not been seen as an alternative to the existing forms, but a supplement. There is a real danger, colleagues, that only calling for technocratic leadership may result in a technically competent but autocratic, narcissistic, and sectarian leadership. This dialogue is about emphasizing ethical, results-based, and inclusive leadership. A leadership that is developmental, and a leadership that is rights and results-based. Let me conclude, Chair, by saying it is no longer permissible, it is no longer rational to continue to run this beautiful continent called Africa, the awesome wonder called Uganda, and the political parties in it purely on memory and historical glory. We must unleash the potential of Uganda's imagination, its creativity, its innovativeness, in order to harness the possibility of the new power I described. Because I told you that dialogue is work, I told you that dialogue is vision and patriotism made visible through consciously courageous leadership action. I told you that in order to say to you, will you dare to be different? Will you dare to be counted? Will you, as the leadership of Uganda, face the grave challenges of the past, appreciate the fantastic opportunities of the future, and know that it is splendid idiocy and tragic omission not to talk? Let me end with a story, because I began with a story. A young man was with a very wealthy man on the continent. He had been asked to assist him, and he had gone fishing on Lake Victoria. And the young man kept asking from the beginning of the day, "Sir, what made you so rich? I'd like to be as rich as you are." And the old man ignored him. He said, "Sir, please tell me. I don't want to do this job that I'm doing. I want to be rich as you are." And the old man ignored him. After 3 hours of being bothered by the young man, the old man took him by the scruff of the collar, dipped his head in the water, and he struggled for breath for a few seconds. And he let him out, and the old man continued fishing without saying a word. The young man was so upset. He said, "What did you do that for?" And the old man responded, "If you struggle in life, if you are as aggressive, as assertive, as committed in life as you were to regain your breath, then you will be richer than I am, more powerful than I am. If Ugandans don't struggle to make this dialogue work, if Ugandan leaders don't commit to make this dialogue work, if it is about point scoring, which political party can make the other one look bad, if it is about name calling things that we've always done. If it is about describing your fears, the struggle is not yet on. For this struggle to be on, remember what I said, there are 7 pillars. And because we forget what we are told quickly, those 7 pillars are purpose. Why are we talking? 2, people. For whom are we talking? 3, process. What are the systems and structures that will enable our talk to be productive? Number 4, performance. What results and outcome will come out of this that are intergenerational and that are not just about accommodating our narrow political party interests? Number 5, what sort of power are we seeking to transform? To what effect and for what purpose? Number 6, what kind of functional partnerships will make this dialogue work? What kind of trust and integrity? What kind of guarantees, internal and external guarantors, do we need? Personal. Everything stands and falls on leadership. This dialogue will not fail outside the failure of leadership. Thank you for accommodating me. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian Kagoro, for having taken us through this very wonderful and inspirational speech. While Brian was speaking, there is a book I was reading by a famous British publicist, political publicist, called Ernest Byrne. And one of the catchphrases that Byrne writes is he says, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it whether it exists or not, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedy. And from what Brian has said, if we get a wrong diagnosis, then it means that lots of things will not move in the right direction. At this point in time, we'd like to open up, as we wait for the principals, we want to open up our discussion so we have an interactive session. I'd like to request that we have a microphone, courtesy of the ushers, in each column where we have political representation. What do we think we can do as Ugandans, premising ourselves on what Brian has packaged for us to take Uganda forward, riding on the theme that we have today of strengthening multi-party governance in Uganda? What do we think we can do to push this agenda of strengthening multi-party governance in Uganda? The microphones, someone from DP, Madam from DP, will have the gentleman in the front here from JEMA, we'll have Dr. Tanga, and then we'll have the gentleman in a black suit, the other side from UPC, and then after that we'll have a second round. Madam.
Thank you so much. Ruta Daisy Nachans is my name, from the Democratic Party. In perception to the theme that we have today, in observation of Mr. Museveni and what Brian has given to us, I want to make it clear to him that we, the youth in Uganda, are not in pursuit of violence just because we intend to, but just because we need a peaceful exit plan for him. We need this because we are demanding for generational cause, where we don't want to pursue violence like the NRM government thinks we are just idle, but in actual sense, we need change of governance. Secondly, if you want to strengthen and advance multi-party operations in Uganda, I beg that all of us, especially from the opposition, in pursuit of constitutionalism, also try to be tolerant to alternative opinion from different people. Oftentimes we try to think that just because I have a right to belong to the Democratic Party, someone doesn't have a right to belong to the NRM. So let us leave people with choice, that it is not criminal for anyone to belong to the party of choice, so that when we are deliberating, we can be tolerant. Lastly, let us not as opposition demand Mr. Museveni to exit power when our own members of parliament are seeking for 4th terms, 5th terms, and do not have an exit plan for the next 20 years. If you're an MP in opposition and you're seeking a 4th term, but not even have a plan to leave power in the next 20 years, then why are we condemning Mr. Museveni to leave power when he's even having better privileges? Charity begins at home. If you want him to leave, let us also have an exit plan with the small positions that we have. I thank you.
Thank you very much for the opinion. I'm sure all of us are consumers of what the opinions that are coming through are. Gemma?
Thank you, Lawrence. My name's Edfred Kasajja, Deputy Secretary General, Gemma. Brian Kagolo. On a lighter note, this Kagolo name should be coming from Hoima. I wonder how it comes from Zimbabwe. Brian, Uganda has had a scary past. It has a lot of youth in hope for leadership politically. But again, of course, I'm not a youth. 1969 is not near. At the same time, these youth seem not to have hope to get into responsibility political offices. Why? Because the elderly have refused to vacate the stage out of experience. Brian, how was Zimbabwe handled? I know you have a wealth of experience from Zimbabwe and South Africa. How was Mugabe pampered out of power because it wasn't easy? We are watching it on internet. We are following it closely. How can we pamper Mzee to go out of power knowing that his people across the board will be safe? Brian, are we using harsh language to our colleagues in NRM that maybe when Mzee leaves power, they will be mistreated? Since we have begun dialoguing, can we tone down? How were the Zimbabweans able to do it in a way that can help us, since we have started dialoguing, be of incense so that we can have a peaceful transition of power from Yoweri Museveni to President Asmani Basalirwa, or even from Yoweri Museveni to somebody in NRM whom you can support, because it's not a crime.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kasajja.
So it's not a crime to support somebody from NRM, but how do we handle that transition peacefully without so much horrible?
Great.
Can you share your experience from Zimbabwe and South Africa?
Thank you. I want to limit the submission by every member to 1.5 minutes so that we can have as many. Dr. Tanga.
Thank you very much, moderator. First of all, I want to thank my brother, Dr. Brian Kagoro. First of all, for the simplicity the paper exhibits, the expose in the paper, and the sense of direction that the paper gives, that should actually merit to the level of this dialogue. The paper is not a blame game paper. It's not a paper that should delve, and our discussion should not delve into blaming. The paper brings in Uganda's three-dimensional history, the coloniality, the post-coloniality, and the neoliberalism. The paper is high-stake paper. It is actually a paper that addresses us and sets the parameter of the summit at a high-class summit, not for mediocrity. I want also to applaud the paper for bringing out the different questions for which dialogue is a must. The paper mentions the Northern question, the Buganda question, the regionalization and ethnicization of politics, and near to the commercialization of politics. And the paper benchmarks in its conclusion the role of leadership. Cognizant of the fact that we have no time, and also aware that we didn't get this paper in tandem, and we hope we get it in post. This paper needed a thorough discussion when all the leaders are here. This paper should have been presented, I'm not an organizer of this conference, should have been presented when the leaders of all the political parties are listening in. Because if you listened to him, like I did, the paper brings an analogy on a three-story basis. It sets the foundation from a three-story basis. 3 stories, which is kind of 3 cones in a thesis kind of format. I'm from the academia as well. The paper is not, and I insist, is not a paper that we can discuss ably without having to read or have read it and analyzed. He presented a high-class paper, and I want to thank you for that. And mentions in it what Ugandans here know and which we need to analyze for dialogue. Lastly, what I liked most is that for dialogue, you don't need to have everyone there. The journey must start, others will follow, especially if they feel the vacuum is hurting them. Dialogue is not about Museveni. It's not about longevity in power. I'm an historian. If one delves into age and power, age and leadership, then one will divert us and we can write another piece of work. Because if one wants the example of Mugabe and Zimbabwe, then you are actually going to delve into years, and then we shall question our post-coloniality in Uganda and whether age helped Uganda.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tanga. There was a gentleman at the extreme end of UPC. I will give an opportunity to another delegate from UPC, one opportunity from a delegate from NRM, one Honorable Todwong. Then we will have one delegate from JEMA. We'll have a lady, if there's a lady. And then, yes, Madam, I see Madam from JEMA. Then we will have Council Rumu, and then we'll have from the observers, Madam. Then Brian will respond and we'll take another round. Okay, go ahead. You have 1 minute, please. Could someone...
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Brian, for that elaborate presentation. I go directly to what is necessary, what Uganda needs, so as to approach and practice multi-party democracy. The first thing Uganda needs is not now amendment, but law reforms. The constitution has been amended to the effect that it has become excessively porous for democracy to filter through such that it can't be held. Number 2, any other law touching democracy, any other law touching democracy in Uganda must equally be reformed. Amendments cannot do anything. Another thing, egocentrism must be deleted from the minds of individuals such that such a dialogue that we are for can hold water. And then also another thing is acting under passion, hot heads. These are not good things that dialogue of such a nature needs if we need to take Uganda to that high profile democracy. Lastly, I want to say that if this sitting has to compose itself to a meaningful sitting, it needs not only a voluminous write-up in form of documents, but whether or not there is legal force in that write-up, such that every member who subscribes to it is bound by it. Once you want to jump away after signing it, you should be followed up. So legal force of any document that this kind of sitting will come up with, this summit will come up with, is very necessary to check on people who normally jump out during a time when a decision must be finally taken.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable, for your contribution. Honorable Todwong.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and dear participants. I need to thank the presenter for the good paper and equally request that we could benefit if we can read it in detail and analyze deeply the pyramid analysis and all that he brought up. Mr. Moderator, for the benefit of this summit, I would request that we be a little civil and cordial. This summit is not about saying NRM should leave power, we need to come in, change of power, Museveni has overstayed. No. It's to set the framework through which we can effectively compete with each other with mutual respect with one another. I always say that Uganda, in the format of an examination, we are here trying to deliberate on issues that would form Section A of every academic paper questions. That questions that are within Section A of an examination paper are always compulsory. And these are the compulsory questions that we must all answer. DP must answer, FDC, even if they're not here, they will have to answer. Because with an examination, if you're already a candidate, whether you're sick or absent, your desk will remain like we have left theirs. JEMA will have to respond to, NRM will have to respond to, UPC will have to respond to. Then Section B are now the optional questions, where DP might take a different approach, FDC will take a different approach, JEMA will take a different approach, NRM a different approach, and UPC the same. But we are here to try to find ways of agreeing on the nature of what comes in Section A. What should bind us together? What should make us cooperate with one another? What do we demonstrate out there that Ugandans should see that we compete with one another and yet we maintain civility? I need to thank you for this example of a sewage, that whose sewage are the children playing in? Is it for DP? Is it for FDC? Is it for JEMA? Is it for NRM? Is it for UPC? So we are here trying to fix the question of the sewage, not to blame ourselves on whose sewage the children are playing in. Great. Because definitely DP has issues with Uganda. FDC has issues. JEMA, of course, they already have issues. They have already mixed themselves in the issues. NRM has issues. UPC the same. But we are not here to blame each other.
Thank you so very, very much, Honorable Todwong.
So I thought I should make that little comment on the subject matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. I want to believe when the executive director, the executive secretary of IPOD, in his remarks, he told us that dialogue within dialogue is acceptance of the views of the other person. But even with differing opinions, we must remain civil. And I think that's very, very important in the spirit of dialogue. So let's discuss what do we think will further this country of ours, where we are all stakeholders, to the next level, especially when it comes to multi-party governance. The opportunity was for a lady from...
She has stepped down from me.
Oh, she declines. Please. Please pass the microphone to...
So brief.
Kindly pass the microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is my elder. But then I'm so touched by the speech. So I was able to get out a few things I would talk about. Tumwebaze Evelyn. I would agree with the speaker who talked about citizenship. We are the problem. We have, I would quote, we have a saying that every one of us knows. People believe the government is supposed to do everything for them while they are seated at the back, and they keep saying government etuyambe. And the problem, as he was presenting, I realized we've lost love for the country. That's one of the problems. People no longer have love for the country as Uganda. It goes up to the media that when something nice happens, for example in court, if something happens to be done right, they would not put it as a headline, but rather look for something else that would bring in disorganization. So you realize the citizens, we are number one problem. Then the other issue is about self-leadership. Ourselves have decided to be a product but not a brand, because a product can easily disappear, but a brand will always remain, and people will always remember you because of the brand. But you realize we've made up our minds to end up products. So it's self-leadership. It starts with me before I blame the other person. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Lumu.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have two comments to make. I want to thank you, Brian. You have ably done the work while you are behind the microphone. However, I want to ask the question, why are we in need of dialogue, of talking to each other? By asking that question, I want to go to what my colleague, the Deputy Secretary of talked about. You've seen stubborn boys. They always don't want to be talked about. Now, in a situation like this one, Ugandans need to talk about what is happening around them. And who has caused this? It is the people in power. So when people are talking about you, it is part of dialogue. Accept and let them talk. Two, where is the problem? The big problem. The big problem is with Electoral Commission. You see, the leaders of our parties have been there, but there is one leader who appoints the Electoral Commission, who appoints the commissioners, and then he participates in the elections. What do you expect that chairman of the Electoral Commission is going to do after the election? He will simply declare a winner without any hesitation. That is one. Two, the brutality against other political parties. Today, if I need to hold a rally in Nachivubo, for example, I have to first go through so many steps, and at the end of it all, they might refuse. Who refuses? the police. But when the people in the government wants to hold their rallies or their meetings, it's a phone call. For us, it is almost next to impossible. That's what we need to talk about here. We need the hard talk here. We don't simply have to hide our heads in the sand. There is a problem. There is no politics in Uganda. There is only just another thing. I don't know the name. So third, there is a problem with the parliament. In Uganda, the Speaker of Parliament belongs to some party. For now, the Speaker belongs to NRM. The chairman of NRM is the president of the country. What do you think will happen if the chairman of NRM, who has the Speaker of the NRM, who is the Speaker of Parliament, wants something to be done in Parliament? What do you think will happen? It's just maybe a phone call and that will come to pass. Lastly, before we restore term limits in our constitution, this talking would be like just an ordinary talk. Because if there are no term limits, there is no way other parties will go to that power, or with an electoral commission like the one I have talked about. Two, lastly on that, let us also restore age limits. The two must be in the constitution for multi-party to prosper in this country. I
thank you very, very much. Councillor Lumu, we have the last, in this session, the last opportunity going to Madam an observer. I hope you're still interested. Can you please pass the microphone? Over there. And then thereafter we'll have Brian to come and respond and then move to the next level. Kindly move a little faster.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lydia Namayengo, and I'm an observer. When we talk about the strengthening multi-party democracy in Uganda, I will first of all thank Brian for being able to prepare something in terms of electoral democracy and in terms of supporting the dialogue process in Uganda today. I must say that this is the right time that Uganda has been waiting for to actually have a dialogue. One of the key issues I actually want to outline that has come up that actually Brian has been able to emphasize is the issue of the purpose, the process, and the people. In many cases, as the political leaders and the people who have come up to speak on behalf of the citizens ever get to come out to outline the purpose why we are engaging into democracy. We have had issues whereby leaders coming from political parties have been able to outline the issues concerning the people of this country. And when Brian talks about the citizens, I would actually think that one of the key issues that actually is affecting the citizens of this country is poverty and unemployment. If we want to strengthen multi-party governance in this country, we need to see all the political parties in this country having an initiative or an engagement on how they are actually going to be able to tackle the two key issues affecting citizens in this country, that is poverty and unemployment. I would also want to see the political parties bringing about an issue that is concerning how they are going to be able to accommodate the young people. Youth inclusion in political parties, leadership and elections in this country is very key. Uganda has the highest number of young people in this country who actually qualify to be voters, but have not been able to actually participate in the leadership positions. Those who have come up to become leaders are just in positions without power, without the capacity, without the information, without the knowledge, without the economic empowerment.
Thank you.
How are the political parties going to be able to come up with that? And then lastly, I would actually want the political parties to call upon the newly constituted Constitutional Review Commission, because the main problem coming up in this country that is actually affecting multi-party governance in this country is the constitution. We need to actually have an independent appointments committee that is going to be able to handle all the appointments in this country, starting with putting down the Constitutional Review Commission and then appointing a new one, as well as ensuring that we can be able to have an independent committee that is appointing every other function that is coming up in this country that is actually being given to the office of the president.
Thank you very, very much. For the time being, we can first hold it at this and invite Brian to come and respond to especially those questions that were fronted to him. Brian?
Thank you so much for the kind comments. You know, sometimes if you are dealing with questions, there's always a danger that you may misunderstand. Thinking of that, Professor Khabele Matlosa from the African Union Directorate of Political Affairs told me that a professor from a country that remains nameless was formed by conference organizers from Scotland. And they phoned him and said he must come and talk about press freedom. The line was so bad that what he had was breastfeeding. So he prepared a thorough paper on breastfeeding, arrived at this conference on press freedom to give a keynote, and spoke for a good 20 minutes on breastfeeding. And the person chairing the meeting said, well, I'd never thought of press freedom from a breastfeeding perspective. So I want to make sure that there's no... Let me start off by saying that dialogue cannot be overladen with the expectation that it will achieve what the dialoguers are not willing to achieve. In part of what I said about dialogue, I said it is the willingness to make peace with imperfection. That's the understanding that I will not get everything I think I deserve. When you walk away from the dialogue table, there will be many unhappy clients, but the nation will be better off. And so we all define our positions in extremity. When I came to an iPod conversation, I told them the story of two married people, a husband and a wife who had had a quarrel in the morning. So the husband, they are walking down the street, they see donkeys. So the husband, thinking he's insulting the wife, points at the donkeys and says, they are your relatives. And the wife says, yes, by marriage. So the small point about how and what we can get out of dialogue needs to be made. My experience across this continent is that you start off with an omnibus, a washing or shopping list of things that you want. And life teaches you rather sadly to zero in on a minimum platform of what can be gained. And dialogue is not an event that ends. Dialogue is a process that continues. So it's useful that this event is a very powerful and symbolic event. But this is one in a process. And it's useful that we do not think that everything is going to end today. If today you reached agreement on everything, it is highly likely that you are going to start disagreeing afterwards. So there is the process of ventilation that must go on. So what are those minimum things on which you must agree? In Uganda, you are unique because the conversations that you are having about age and so, I'm mindful. How old is Trump, by the way? Is there any American in the room? Sorry, how old is he? 74? Okay. What was the Uganda age limit proposed? What's the proposed? So Trump wouldn't be able to finish his term, right? Sorry, and Bernie Sanders was how old? If you have voted, you'll finish, okay. The Europeans are moving the retirement age in some countries from 65 to 75. So I said you are unique. No one can question your internal reasons for a setting age limit. No Zimbabwean can come and say a 75-year-old is incapable. Our own experiences, we've had very young people who are so incapable, it's frightening. And we've had old people who are such an albatross on our neck, it's been frightening. And we decided in our own context that the issue was not only the age of the person. In fact, we wanted to lower the age to enable younger people to be presidents. Our problem was fundamentally one of values, because our sense was that competence and capacity should be adjudged, notwithstanding these factors. But Uganda is unique. I will not comment on that. If Ugandans are agreed on youthfulness as a premise of leadership, it's not up to a presenter at a conference today. Then we have the question on how Zimbabwe did it. I don't think you should photocopy that template. Ours was a coup that was not a coup. And we substituted nothing for nothing. I want to suggest to you that constitutionalism has been the anchor of Ugandan conversation. Stay on that course. Constitutionalism will protect you against yourselves. It will protect you against people you oppose. It will protect you against eventualities that you have not foreseen. We've learned in our instance that when you keep on bringing soldiers from the barracks into politics, and the same soldiers are in economics, you create power that's indefatigable. It cannot be defeated. You have a conflation of state, of political party, and economy and securocracy. So whilst it appears an enticing option, we want to caution you that in thinking about your own future, think carefully. I'm advised that the principles will come out soon. There were many comments that came out, and I think many of the comment, there were suggestions about what the problem is. I am an outsider, so whilst I concede that those may be problems, I am also have a leaning to the effect that the structural questions within the Ugandan economy are a problem. And political parties need to dialogue about the structural questions. The international dynamics, I think somebody referred to it as the neoliberalism, and so on and so forth, are important. And it's useful that we talk about that. Youth unemployment, ladies and gentlemen, the locking out of young people out of the economy, which results in them being locked out of politics, because we have monetized development, financialized everything, including our politics. We are creating an involuntary trade union of rebels amongst our young people, because they don't have the money to enter, so they will disrupt from outside. And when they disrupt, you will not have enough guns and police and force. Besides, you are growing older to contain that sort of trade union. So that's why I put it on the table. It may not be a concern for political parties. It's a central issue about the development trajectory of the nation. And the political parties are very clear about the power objective. And that's why the elections are central. Sometimes we discovered, because being in the pro-democracy movement, our friends went into what was called an inclusive government, and they discovered crudely, finally you have the opportunity to appoint, let's say, 70 permanent secretaries or principal secretaries, and you can appoint 40 ambassadors. You have to appoint directors in ministries. So we discovered that most political parties that want power do not have the competences and capacities, have not had the opportunity to invest in developing competences and capacities for people to man the bureaucracy, right? So when you look at the qualifications in the legislation for principal secretaries, for directors of ministries, for ambassadors, and you look at what the political parties have in their membership and their cadreship, we discovered that very few of them had enough people to fill, unless if you just made it a political appointment, which doesn't meet the legislative requirements of qualification. So when I was talking earlier, I was in essence saying to the political parties, over and above contesting for power, which is the political power, the conquest and retention of power, think about building the competences and capacities to efficiently run the state and administer it. Because the reason why we have a lot of corruption is we have elevated mediocrity to the point where it has become sacrosanct. We have elevated incompetence because it was loyal in the party to the point where it has become the most active action of sabotaging the aspiration of the nation. So that's why it's important for us to talk about it. I have to end, perhaps let me end by simply saying, you are having a dialogue about the future where the past is very important. You are having a dialogue about progress where repression is very important. You are having a dialogue about inclusion where exclusive politics has been important. You are having a dialogue about nationhood where organizing around sectarian interests has been important. The complexity of the dialogue is it calls all of us to change because the world outside has changed. This dialogue is not only about what Ugandans are experiencing. This dialogue should be about the reality that encompasses Uganda outside. The geopolitical and geoeconomic reality, whether it is a UPC presidency, FDC presidency, JEMA presidency, or DP presidency. That geopolitical and geoeconomic reality will constrict the ability of such a presidency to run this country for the benefit of citizens. And that's hence my suggestion in the paper was, why don't you start talking about the future now? Why don't you start talking about those realities? The realities you feel about the local political arrangements are as real as the realities about the global political economy. If we don't dialogue about this, then we will have a very localized conversation that may provide us with a local solution. Just to use a medical term as I end, my friend, that when a person has cancer, or when a person has, what disease can I refer to? Normally they get symptoms. Symptoms are the most visible aspect of a disease, but they hardly define and they hardly constitute the disease. If you don't diagnose the disease, you get rid of the symptoms and still die of the disease. What ails this society is not simply the nature of politics and the structure of the state, the nature of electoralism. The biggest threat to multipartyism in this country is the fact that the bulk of the population are clients of political elites. If they are clients of political elites, they are unable to freely and willingly become players that hold such political elites to account. If you are unemployed, you are purchasable. If you have no housing, you are purchasable. My suggestion is talk about those things that will graduate young people from becoming your clients and therefore your political cannon fodder. I'm mindful, Chair. I've never met any political actor who reforms themselves out of power. And hence my call was, it requires a special courage of conviction. It's not a natural act to reform yourself out of power.
Thank you very, very much. Brian, I think his summary has been very, very good. It's not natural. All right. As far as his paper is concerned, we will try to share. The Airport Secretariat will share the paper with the Secretary Generals, and we hope they will disseminate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am reliably informed that the principals are about 5 minutes away. But I was equally informed that some of us have our sugar levels already going beyond uncontrollable levels. I just want to suggest that we take a break tea, and by the time we are done, the party principals are equally done, and we are back in the next, for the next session. We are going to use the steps on the right, this side. Ladies and gentlemen, security has cordoned off the steps that side, so let's cooperate with them and use the steps this side. We are going to have our tea on the ground floor. Okay? Can I volunteer to pray for the tea? Father, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you for the discussion we've had so far. We want to thank you for everyone that is here to discuss issues that pertain to the future and to the good of this country. We welcome your presence in our midst, and we pray that whatever we discuss will be for the good of this country and not for the selfish interests of the individuals that are participating. We pray all this trusting and believing in your mighty name. Amen. You are all welcome for the tea.
Baba TV, obusuga bulayire.